Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with co-host James Higgins, and the off-season is finally upon us. World Series wrapping up last week when we left you in the middle of Game 7, of course, with our very own Washington Nationals here in D.C. taking the World Series championship. So congratulations, of course, to the Washington
Congrats
Nationals.
to the Washington Nationals bringing championship baseball to D.C. for the first time since 1924. They finished the fight.
They really did. It was an outstanding season indeed for the Nationals, who were 19-31, I believe.
On May 20, after they finished play on May 23rd.
On May 23rd, to come all the way back and win a World Series like that. Absolutely tremendous performance by them. And not only by that, but also by taking down the heavily favored Houston Astros for what seemed like the entire series. Just an overall great series in general. The first series we've ever seen in the history of professional sports where every away team game was won by the away team, or every home game was won by the away team. So simply remarkable there, to say the least. Just a quick reminder, we are live every week now. We're going to amend our time a little bit. We're going to say 8:10 to 9:10. Experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties in the studio, so we're just going to shoot for that hour time right there, so you can tune in a little bit later now for our live shows. And of course, if you don't tune into our live shows, the podcasts are posted the next following day on our Twitter. That's at NatPastimeCap. That's at NatPastimeCap. Go ahead and follow that for all show updates and shows.
And subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah, subscribe to our YouTube as well. That link is in all of our tweets that have shows posted as well. You can find our YouTube very easily there. Same name as the show name, Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about World Series Game 7 very briefly. Of course, we left in the middle of that with the Astros having a 1-0 lead. Slowly became 2 after that. And then, of course, the Nationals did what they did best this entire season and fought back. And boy, did they do that with some help from Anthony Rendon, the now free agent, and, of course, what seemed like one of their most clutch bats throughout the entire postseason, Mr. Howie Kendrick.
Game 7 for the Nationals was reminiscent of their entire season. They resurrected from the dead after being 19-31, made the playoffs, and they resurrected from the dead in Game 5 against the Dodgers and hit back-to-back off Kershaw, won the division series, and they resurrected from the dead in Game 7 with Anthony Rendon and Howie Kendrick with 2 big home runs to ultimately give them the victory in Game 7 and give them a World Series championship. They were such a fun team to watch the entire season. It was a joy to watch them. Being there from day one, the Game 5 of the World Series in Nats Park was a lot of fun. Going to a lot of games this year. The parade was awesome. It was a great atmosphere. People really came out and supported them because this is such a fun group. This is a great group that all of DC gathered around and supported and really got behind, and you can see it. And they're the perfect mix of young guys and veterans. You know, Zimmerman, Soto, Rendon, Strasburg, Scherzer, Trey Turner, Patrick Corbin, they're Gerardo Parra, especially with
Don't
his.
say it.
I don't. Just with his signing
yes,
and helping turn that team around. So they were fun to watch all year. The parade was awesome. I was also fortunate enough to go to the White House visit on Monday. That was a very cool experience as well. Most of the guys were there. It was really fun, really awesome to see everyone.
Great experience with absolutely no controversy at all as well.
Yeah. But no, everything was great. The Nationals is exactly what DC needed to get DC back to being a baseball town, because this town does have rich baseball history with the Washington Senators, and obviously the Nationals haven't been here for a while, and they've choked in the playoffs in years previous. But now finally they have a winner, and hopefully fans come back, because the Nationals deserve the fanfare. They're fun to watch, and it's fun when Nats Park is full. So congrats to the Washington Nationals on a phenomenal 2019 on the World Series championship. For Anthony Rendon and Steven Strasburg. So congrats to Steven Strasburg, World Series MVP. Phenomenal postseason, phenomenal World Series. Congrats to Anthony Rendon. Congrats to Ryan Zimmerman, the 2 guys that have really been here, Zimmerman the whole time and Rendon since 2013. So those two guys in Strasburg who have been here since 2010, those 3 guys to me really, really deserve it. So I'm very happy for all of them.
Yeah, you got to feel for a guy like Ryan Zimmerman, the first ever drafted player in Nationals history, as we talked about last week, being able to go all the way and experience this World Series run with them. Very special to see, and very awesome to see him be able to just hold up that trophy and just, he's been through it all with this franchise, all the way back to playing in RFK to here we are now at the World Series. Fantastic for him. And, it's funny because I actually would love to touch on something that was also said, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago by you, James, and that was that this World Series was going to be a matter of preventing or allowing the Houston Astros to start their dynasty.
Yeah, I did say that last week.
So what I wanted to ask was, do you feel like with this loss, this dynasty is gone, or do you think that they still have the capability and the pieces to make this a dynasty?
I still think they have the capability and pieces to make this a dynasty, even without Garrett Cole returning in 2020.
So you think that's a definite thing? I mean, I would agree.
I'm not saying they're going to be a dynasty, but I'm saying the window is still very wide open for them to win another championship or 2 or 3 and potentially start a dynasty with this core. They have Bregman locked up. They have Altuve locked up. They're going to lock up George Springer after this year. If they let Correa walk, they let Correa walk. But I think they'll be able to sign him for cheaper than what they would have been able to a few years ago just because of his injury history. They have Michael Brantley back for next year. They have Yordan Alvarez for the foreseeable future and pretty cheap because he's going to have, his 2 or 3 years before arbitration. They have Justin Verlander for another 2 years. They have Greinke for another 2 years. So, I mean, really, if you look at that core, they have a lot of pieces there that they can go back and make another run at it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. The Astros, still a very talented team. Was disappointing, to say the least, that they weren't able to win this World Series here, being the overwhelming, heavily favored.
They should have gone to Garrett Cole right after Zach Greinke. AJ Hinch cost them the World Series by not going to Garrett Cole right after Zach Greinke. And I get the point of wanting to save him for the 9th in the lead and wanting to start him with a fresh inning or whatever, but it's Game 7 of the World Series. Your season comes down to it. You had Cole warming up earlier, so you knew you had to get him stretched out in order to get him his normal routine, and he would have been ready to go. They should have just kept him up and brought him in there, and then you go to Osuna if Cole can't go, over 40 pitches or whatever. But you got to get there first. So they should have just, in the playoffs you can't stick to a script, and AJ Hinch tried too much to stick to a script, even though he's done a good job of adapting and not sticking to a script in the past. But he did it in Game 7. Tried to bring in Will Harris, and he was his 12th game in 27 days. Rendon homered off him the night before, and obviously Kendrick got to him, and Greinke was unhittable besides the Rendon home run. So, and it was smart of him to pitch around Soto. So,
yeah, a fantastic outing by Zach Greinke. By the way,
that would have been a career-defining moment by Zach for Zach Greinke if Houston would have gone on to win that game. But that was probably the best start of his career because he was phenomenal, and I don't think he was losing anything just because he gave the home run to Rendon and walked Soto.
No, looking back on it now, that does not seem like the right call at all to go ahead and take him out there. Understand why it was made, of course, because at the moment you just want to be sure you have the fresh arm in there and finish off. They had a 2-1 lead, of course, after he did still give up that home run, but at the same time, the guy was absolutely dealing, like you said, could have been a career-defining moment. It's a shame that that outing there is going to most likely be lost in postseason history now because, of course, the Astros were not able to win that. When it comes down to pointing the finger, I know it's not something that a lot of people like to do following a postseason, or the fans of a team do like to do, depending on what team it may be. But if you're going to look at someone in the Houston Astros, do you think there's something or someone you can point a finger at for why they weren't able to seal this? Because
I think AJ Hinch in Game 7 for not going to Cole. I think you can point at Cole in Game 1 for not setting the tone and letting the Nationals just rough him up. I think you can point to Verlander in either Game 2 or Game 6. He didn't pitch terrible in either game, but he wasn't himself.
Yeah.
The reason why I point more at Verlander than Cole, if I'm going to point at one, because Cole came out and shoved in Game 5. But Verlander still doesn't have a World Series win. In terms of personal record, obviously he won in 2017, but he's 0-5 or 0-6 in his career in the World Series, and that's the one blemish on an otherwise perfect career with all the no-hitters, Cy Young Awards, World Series in 2017. I mean, he's got everything except for a win in the World Series. So, that's something you could point. I think the bottom of their order, not hitting with runners in scoring position, Correa.
For what seemed like the whole postseason, too.
Correa and Alvarez was really only did something, like he was okay in the World Series, but he wasn't great. Bregman was fine. Brantley was fine. Springer was phenomenal. The top of their order was really good, but the bottom of their order did not hit with runners in scoring position. So I think you look at not hitting with runners in scoring position and the bullpen not being able to close out some games. And going back to Game 7 quickly, hats off to Max Scherzer. What a gutsy performance by Max Scherzer. I mean, he was in so much pain and couldn't dress himself 3 days before, but then he went out there, gutted out 5 innings, held the Astros offense to 2 runs. I mean, that's what an ace does, and that's he more than lived up to his Hall of Fame resume, and he did exactly what the Nationals needed him to do. So hats off to Max Scherzer, and congrats on your first World Series as well. I should have mentioned him with the other guys, but I was just mentioning, the Nationals lifers, but he's also a guy that deserves it. He lost it with Detroit in 2012. It came close a few other times with Detroit. Has won 2 Cy Youngs with the Nationals, but they choked, unfortunately, in both those years in the playoffs and the divisional series. So, I mean, hats off to Max Scherzer. He finally got his World Series, and he was overcome with emotion, crying with his dad after the game, and that was awesome because he's a guy that deserves it. He's a bulldog, probably the best pitcher of this generation, and I'm so happy for him.
Now, not only probably the best pitcher of this generation, let me ask you this. Yes or no, the best free agent signing we've ever seen? Like, this has just been insane.
Ever?
Of the most recent times, I'd say I can't think of anyone who's been.
Yeah, definitely. I think Scherzer's the best, definitely the best pitching free agent signing ever.
Sure. Yes.
I think the guys that the only guy that comes to mind for me that rivals it is Manny Ramirez with the Red Sox.
Of course, right. Yeah,
but no, Scherzer definitely within the last 10 years. Absolutely.
But of course, that one also ended rather sour with the way he was shipped off.
No, in 08, right. Yeah, but in 04, from 01 to 07,
he was ridiculous.
That's what. Yeah. So no, but Scherzer is definitely up there for one of the greatest free agent signings of all time. He has been worth every penny of his $210 million contract. Absolutely.
Yeah, would absolutely. Have
and also, this can kind of piggyback into our next point. JD Martinez can also go up there for the Sox for what he's done for the first 2 years there.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that is exactly what we're about to talk about.
JD
now.
Martinez has opted in.
2 big news with opt-outs, of course. We'll talk about the first one real quick, which is JD Martinez deciding to opt in and not explore free agency. The other one, then, of course, Steven Strasburg deciding to opt out. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about JD Martinez because the logic here makes sense. And this is something we were talking about off air the other day. There's not another team in baseball that was going to give him more than he was going to earn. Because the teams that would have wanted him, you see the guys like the White Sox
and the Rangers,
teams like that, were not going to give him more than I believe was the $26 million that he was going to be owed.
24 million this year. So I'm as a Red Sox fan, I'm very happy that JD Martinez opted in. Obviously, we're keeping one of the best hitters in baseball in the middle of the lineup. So he's due to make $23.75 million this year. So 24 million, but he could opt out again after this year because he hasn't opted out after each of the next 2 years.
Correct. Yes.
So he opted into the remaining 3 years and $62.5 million on his contract, but it's really only a 1 year, $24 million deal because he could opt out. But I think the fact that he opted in now means he's going to stay because he's going to be a year older, and the older you get, teams are going to view you less as a fielder. Your market has obviously shrunk because he's only going to DH, and he's going to be making $20 million in those next 2 seasons. So I think if he was going to go for it and try to get more years or get more money, it was going to be now. And so I think the fact that he opted in means he's here to stay in Boston. Here to stay in terms of he wants to be here. But the Red Sox could still very well trade him before opening day.
Yeah, I was going to ask you there because this opens up a lot of possibilities.
It really
with
does.
Trading either him or maybe a guy like Mookie Betts, honestly.
The whole thing with the Red Sox and Chaim Bloom is an absolute mess right now. But I think, no, I don't think trading JD Martinez is the right move at all, and I don't think trading Mookie Betts is the right move either. I understand wanting to get under the luxury tax, but when you have 2 of the best hitters in baseball teaming up along with Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, I mean, those 4 can make the best lineup in baseball, and they were one of the best lineups in baseball last year, and if they made another run at it in 2020, they would be. So if they're really hell-bent on shedding salary and shedding the luxury tax, you gotta trade guys you have to try to trade guys like Nate Eovaldi, David Price, Jackie Bradley Jr.
I don't see a whole lot of people who would take on any
of
those contracts.
I know the Red Sox would obviously have to eat some money, but
more than some, I'd say.
No, but you have to get you have to be able to get some value back in return.
Yeah,
in terms of money, they obviously want to get under the luxury tax, and I think they're the most interesting team to watch this offseason, not just because I'm a Red Sox fan, but because what are they going to do with the generational talent in Mookie Betts and his $27 million arbitration salary? That's what it's projected to be, because only a certain number of teams can take on that salary. But when you think about that, only a certain number of teams have the prospect capital, and only a certain number of teams can take on that $27 million. So the Red Sox have to find that perfect match. You don't know how much you're going to get in return for 1 year of Mookie Betts because the 1 year returns for guys haven't been overwhelmingly strong in the last couple of years. So
look at Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt was what? It was Kelly. And it was
Weaver, right?
And Weaver, yeah, that's right. And then some
Weaver was solid. Weaver was solid.
He was pretty good.
But just in terms of the 1 year returns, that hasn't been as strong as in years past.
No, not at all.
So like it's going to be tough because of those things, and also JD opting in complicated matters more because if they were expecting him to opt out, they knew they could have the $24 million to play with and whatnot, and maybe try to shed salary elsewhere while trying to retain Mookie Betts. But I'm very happy about it. It should be viewed as good news, but some people may view it as bad news, which is just the wrong thing. And JD Martinez could still be traded, which is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that because JD opted in, now they're saying, oh, you have to trade Mookie, which you don't. I don't think that's the solution. Unfortunately, like he might get traded, and he probably will, but I don't think that that's necessarily the right move.
No, not necessarily the right move. I would agree as well. But it seems like that's all we've been seeing all over the media the past couple of days. JD's in. We have to trade.
No, that shouldn't be the attitude. Right. And also, Sam Kennedy said they will talk to Mookie. They have not talked to Mookie Betts yet about contract extensions, but they will at the appropriate time. But they should just get started now.
They really should just get started now. And as a final point here, before we go into our other opt-out candidate here, and that's about Mookie Betts. What kind of contract extension would we even be thinking about here? Because this is a guy who's coming off of a still good year, but not a Mookie Betts year.
It was a very good year.
It was a very good year, but
he was still
him.
top 5 in WAR.
Oh, no, he was still top 5.
Yeah.
And he was a great hitter and everything. I'm just saying we know what else he's capable of.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're giving him a contract based on what we know Mookie Betts is capable of, you're looking at, I'd say more than Harper, would you? I mean,
it depends how many years.
Yeah, that's also true.
I'd give him around like $280 million for 8 years, or $300 million for 8 years. $300 million for 8 years would be $37.5 million per year, which would be the highest annual value. And yeah, the highest annual value wouldn't be the highest guaranteed money, but the highest annual value. And the reason why I'd give 8 years because it would take him through his age 36 year. He's a complete 5-tool player. He doesn't just rely on one thing. So if one thing diminishes, that's not just going to be a complete downfall in his career.
Right.
He still has a lot of other things to rely on, and I think obviously he's going to be a guy. He's right now, if he continues to play like this, he's going to be a Hall of Fame talent. So he's a guy that's most likely going to age very well, and he has multiple aspects of his game. Just wants that will age well. He just won his 4th straight Gold Glove. He's got speed, he's got power. He can do it all. He can hit for average. So, the guy he's the top at worst, he's the 3rd best player in baseball, but he really is the 2nd best player in baseball behind Mike Trout, just right in front of Christian Yelich.
Wow.
So it's just really hard to justify trading a guy like that, justify trading your best homegrown prospect ever. Like not just, in this last decade, in this century. Like he's your best ever homegrown prospect. He's everything and more that you've wanted him to be. He's a guy that will do everything for you on a baseball field, and he's going to help you in the middle of that order win ball games. So you have to find a way to keep him. And obviously, if you trade Price or Eovaldi or Jackie Bradley Jr., or even some people are trying to say Sale, but that's not going to happen. But if you trade, or even Benintendi, some people, even though his salary's not hefty, it's going to get up there soon because of the arbitration years.
Right.
So obviously, with guys like Price and Eovaldi, you're going to have to eat that money, or at least 65-70% of it. But if you can unload some in order to retain Betts and get the money to re-sign him, that would be ideal. The one thing that I'm going to keep going back to is why sign Sale to that extension if you knew you only had a certain amount of money and you wanted to get under the luxury tax. If you know you can only spend big on a certain amount of guys, you save up for Mookie Betts. You don't spend it on. I'm fine with the Bogaerts deal, but you could have used some of that Sale money for Mookie Betts, and that's the biggest thing for me. But I'm very happy JD opted in. They shouldn't be taken as bad news, even though some people will. It shouldn't mean Mookie Betts is going to get traded. JD Martinez could still get traded instead of Mookie Betts, and we'll see what Chaim Bloom has up his sleeve because I trust him, and I think he's going to do everything in his power to keep both JD Martinez and Mookie Betts in Boston for 2020.
Yeah, that is an excellent outtake by Red Sox fan there on Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, and all the other stuff that goes on with the Red Sox this offseason. I would have to agree with James in saying one of the most interesting teams to watch this offseason just because of how many choices they have to make. They could go in so many different directions. And not to mention, of course, with Bloom in there, the brand new GM, we have no idea what direction that franchise is going to be
Look, just
taking.
in 20 years, number 50 needs to be hanging up in right field in Fenway.
I think that's fair. I can't really picture Mookie Betts in another uniform, and I don't think it would be very pleasant to do so.
It would be a cardinal sin. I've watched almost every inning of his professional career. He cannot be in another uniform, I'll tell you that much.
No, I would agree with that, absolutely. So with that said, let's move on to our other opt-out news of the week. Of course, there were some other smaller ones as well, but the other big opt-out news, and that is World Series MVP Steven Strasburg, who decided to opt out of the remainder of his contract to pursue the free agency and test the market, becoming now the second best pitcher on the market after, of course, Garrett Cole, and becoming a guy who is poised to receive a huge payday if he finds the right team and the right match. And I got to start off with saying I don't see Steven Strasburg and Anthony Rendon going back to the Washington Nationals. And and I'm still torn on which one the Nationals should choose. Of course, coming off a World Series, I know they'd love to bring both back, but I don't see a realistic way that both of them come back and we still have the Lerners as the owners of the Nationals, because these are not guys that are known for really just not caring about money, if you know what I mean.
But they have the money, though.
Oh, they have it. I'm just saying with the Lerners, they're not going to spend
right,
it.
no, but here's the thing is that, like, I think Rendon is the more irreplaceable guy than Strasburg, and more people in the organization view Rendon as irreplaceable compared to Strasburg or compared to Bryce Harper last offseason, because they knew, like, even if letting Harper go, they had a contingency plan with Adam Eaton and Victor Robles taking over the two outfield spots. But with Rendon, that's a guy who does everything and more on a baseball field. He was top 5 player in baseball this year. He was the best third baseman in baseball this year. He was right up there with Alex Bregman. So I
He's
think
the best third baseman in baseball. You can
this year, just this year, like just
you think he had a better year than Bregman?
It's close.
I think that's
close.
A little close.
That's close.
Yeah, okay,
I think we go 1 and 1A.
All right, fine. Yeah, I'll go with that.
I shouldn't say definitively, but he was a top 2 third baseman in baseball this year. No, but like Rendon is irreplaceable, and he's in line for a big payday, and I think that's the guy the Nationals need to keep. Obviously, like I actually do think they're going to end up keeping both, because I think after the World Series, the Lerners will spend a little bit more money. I expected Strasburg to opt out. I don't think
we
that
all did, of course.
No, but I'm saying even during the season.
Yeah, because he was going to get more money.
I don't think that should come as a surprise to anyone. So he walked away from 4 years and $100 million from his original 7-year, $175 million contract that he signed during the 2016 season. The Nationals have a great relationship with Scott Boras, who's the agent for both Steven Strasburg and Anthony Rendon. Strasburg is in line to get a good payday. I think he's either going to go to the Nationals or he's going to go back home out west to the Padres or to the Angels. But I think he's going to end up staying with the Nationals. This is just early speculation. They've already started talking to Boras about Strasburg's deal. I think D.C. is where Strasburg wants to be. It's the only organization he's known. He's grown up here. He's won World Series MVP. He's lived up to the expectations now. I think he'll be able to settle down. I think he and the Nationals will be able to settle something money-wise. They'll be able to settle on whatever that number is. And be able to match it. I don't know what that magic number is right now.
Well, look, we've heard that so many times, though. I feel like over
but they did not that first time,
right? Not just about the magic number thing, but about the whole look. He's grown up here. This is where he wants to be. I'm still having a hard time of accepting that free agency is anything more for these star players than where's the biggest payday going to be. And I don't feel like the biggest payday is in Washington for Steven Strasburg, because I can name at least 5 teams right now that desperately need a guy like Steven Strasburg, and the Nationals are not one of them. If Steven Strasburg goes away, yes or no, that rotation will be fine. It will be.
It will be.
They don't need him. At this point, it would be something.
They need Rendon.
I would agree with
They're going to keep Rendon.
If I was the Nationals, I would focus my entirety of this offseason to making sure Anthony Rendon does not leave, because you can't let another star position player just walk away like that, especially walk away with an utterly embarrassing offer that you gave him.
Rendon won't leave.
I don't think he will
keep
either.
Rendon, and I think they definitely do have a shot at keeping Strasburg, especially because
they have a shot. I'm just saying, if Strasburg wants money truly, and that's why he opted out,
then I think he would have tested free agency the first time.
Well, he's testing it right now.
No, but I'm saying in 2016.
Okay, in 16, fine.
Because he signed that in the middle of May that year.
Right, yeah.
So I'm saying he would have just tested it that year, because to that point, 2016 was the best year of his career.
But also to that point, he's still a young pitcher who at any point in his career, he's a guy who throws hard. Imagine at that point, someone offers you that extension and guarantees you that kind of money no matter what happens. Why would you test free agency when you're given that chance right there in the middle of May, I believe it was, when he got that deal?
Yeah.
Why would you not take that money? Because you're taking that money for security, and you're taking... It's like all these players you see accepting the extensions last offseason. Remember the explosion of extensions we had before spring training? Yeah. Like Bregman taking the $120 million
Arenado, Goldschmidt.
Or you had Arenado taking that. Or you had... Not even Arenado. I'm talking about more like young guys who haven't even considered reaching free agency yet. You got guys like Acuna. You got Ozzie Albies. You got Eloy Jimenez, who signed before he was even in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. Because these deals aren't the most money they can get at the time, but they're stability moves, and they allow the player to realize, okay, look, if something happens to me, I'm going to be fine because I have this money. It might not be as much as I would have if I risked it, but I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to take it. Hey, $120 million is still a hell of a lot of money. But now you're getting to the point where Strasburg, he's past that point in his career, and he realizes, look, my stock is ridiculously high right now. I just won the World Series MVP. There's a lot of teams that could want me and that need me more than the Nationals. Why not go out there and just try to get money? He got his ring. He's pitched for his 6-7 years in Washington, whatever it has been now. And,
Yeah, I mean, I've watched, Strasburg grow up here. I've watched his entire career. Same with Rendon. And it would be wrong for either of them to not be in a Nationals uniform. Unfortunately, we might be set with that reality next year, but, it would be wrong. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
right, but
like,
I feel like
they're
we can make
both,
that
they're
argument
both
for almost
homegrown. They're both
any homegrown
I know,
prospect.
but look at what they've just done.
That's fine.
Like
and I
that's
agree
what I'm
with
saying.
that.
That's what I'm saying. Like look at what they've just done for DC.
I mean, look, but at the same time, you could say that with so many other players throughout the history of the time, like, oh, this can't be in any other uniform. It just looks wrong, you know. But it's a matter of the day. Baseball is a business, and it's just going to come down to that money. And every single time I hear, oh, someone wants to stay here because he's grown up here, he likes the people here, it doesn't make sense.
No,
to
I
me
know,
we've
but
never seen that be the case.
And I know what you're saying
We
about
never
stability,
have.
but Strasburg also did that the first time.
He did,
also
but like I
stayed
said,
here.
that was all about stability. He did that the first time because not only was it his
Yeah.
home team that he loves, I have no doubt that he loves the Washington Nationals and would love to stay here. And I also have no doubt that last season Bryce Harper wanted to remain a National. I have no doubt in my mind. But when you have Scott Boras as your agent, you're not signing Scott Boras to say, hey, you know what, we can take a little less
right.
money.
But I will say this: Mike Rizzo probably has the best relationship with Scott
Sure,
Boras
he's
out
got
of
a
any
great
GM.
relationship. I
So
would
I
not
think
argue
if
that.
there's any negotiating wiggle room that any GM has, Mike Rizzo has it.
Sure, and that's fair. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to say I don't think that the Nationals can give Strasburg the most possible money. If Strasburg truly wants the most money, which is what I believe, he's going to go to either San Diego, Los Angeles, one of these other teams that needs pitching.
But here's the thing, though, is that Scherzer's getting old and he has 2 more years left. So wouldn't you just sign Strasburg? Like, so then when Scherzer's contract ends, you have that bridge. You have
I'm not saying
Strasburg
they shouldn't.
and
I'm saying it's a
Corbin.
matter of being
That's
realistic.
why I think they're going to sign him because it's like then you have those 2 bona fide aces.
So who's getting the less money then? Because you're not going to be able to persuade Anthony Rendon to take less money because there's about 7 teams that want him in the middle of that lineup. One of them is going to have to take less money because this is the Lerners. At the end of the day, I don't care if we just won the World Series. The Ted Lerners are some of the cheapest owners in baseball.
It's going to play out over a long off season, and the speculation will be there all off season. I think
we looking at another February signing for these guys.
Who knows?
Oh,
As of right now, I think both Steven Strasburg and Anthony Rendon will remain Nationals. But again, no rumors have started. So like if that doesn't happen, like it's not like I'm just going out there with a blind call.
Right. Very early in the offseason. But you know what? I would have to say I'm not going to be surprised if we see these top guys not sign again until the end. Especially with a guy like Garrett Cole. We saw pitchers develop even slower last season.
Here's something that I kind of thought about. What if they re-sign Strasburg and trade Scherzer in order to free up some sort of that money? Because
how much is Scherzer owed still? That's the
he's
thing.
owed he's owed $30 million over the next 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
And he's still like he had his injury troubles this year, but I don't think a lot of teams know how bad it was as compared to the Nationals. So like.
Try to trade him now where he has
He still is great about that. Like it's not going to happen, but that's just something that they should think about.
No, I would agree. That would make sense, but at the same time, you also have to consider it as an image thing. I mean, image-wise, that would not look fantastic. Trading your guy. Everyone loves Max Scherzer. I mean, that would just be. And and at the same time, I understand it. It's an image-wise thing with Strasburg and Rendon as well. You just won the World Series. You want to keep the core together. The same exact thing happened for almost any team you can think of that won the World Series. I'm not going to say this, minus the Marlins, of course, who won the World Series and blow up twice. But almost any other team that won their first World Series or one of very few wants to keep that core together for as long as possible. And I know it's an image thing. The fans love it. It's marketable. It sells. And it makes sense. But at the same time, it's an image thing versus a realistic thing as well. Is this realistic that both these guys are actually going to come back to Washington? So with that said, we are going to take a quick break here. When we return, Robbie will be back in the booth with us, which will be good, and that'll lead into our next discussion where we take a look at the finalists for all the major awards that were announced this week, and we're going to give our picks who we think is the most deserving of all those awards, everything from MVP to Cy Young to Manager of the Year and Rookie of the Year. So stay tuned for that. We will be back in a few minutes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, James Higgins. Due to a misunderstanding, Mr. Robbie Cruz will not be joining us for the second half of the show, unfortunately, but that will not prevent us from diving into our second discussion in the second half of the show, and that is, of course, of the awards finalists for the NL and AL that were announced and that we will know within the week here. So let's just go ahead and start with the main one that everyone wants to know, and that is the most valuable player in both leagues. And I don't know, what do you think? Should we start with AL or NL? Which one are we thinking?
AL.
Start with AL because I know you have a couple opinions on some of the finalists there. But before we get to that, let's look at the actual finalists. And those, of course, are Mike Trout, Alex Bregman, and Marcus Semien. Now, before we give our opinions on if these finalists were right and if anyone else should have been a finalist, can we both agree that Mike Trout is the AL MVP this year?
Mike Trout is the AL MVP. Alex Bregman is a very close second, and he will win an AL MVP within the next 2 seasons. But this year, Mike Trout was the most valuable player in the American League and the best player in baseball.
And we'll continue his streak, or already has continued his streak, of still never finishing lower than fourth place in the AL MVP voting since being called up, which is absolutely ridiculous. But what else would you expect from a player like Michael Nelson Trout? So moving on then, of course, Bregman, yes. I agree with that. Very close second. Not more valuable than Trout, though. And the last spot is where I have seen a lot of controversy over the past couple days between two players, actually. Marcus Semien, of course, the one who got the pick, having a fantastic season at shortstop for the Oakland Athletics and being a very valuable player to them. But the argument is, was he picked correctly for third place? I think everyone knew whoever got third place was just going to be, or got the last nomination, was going to be just the de facto third place MVP winner because Bregman and Trout were going to come in front of them. But the two names, of course, that are being thrown out instead of Marcus Semien would be DJ LeMahieu of the Yankees and Xander
Bogaerts should have been third. Xander Bogaerts should have
been
been third. I'm sorry. Xander Bogaerts should have been the third finalist.
So
just like JD Martinez wasn't a finalist last year, Xander Bogaerts wasn't a finalist this year. Both were wrong.
Wait. Martinez was a finalist.
No, he was not.
How
he
the heck
finished
was
in fourth.
he not a finalist last year? I didn't even realize
it was the DH thing. I'm serious.
That is so stupid.
I don't even remember who finished in third. But JD Martinez finished in fourth after flirting with the Triple Crown.
That's right.
Don't ask me how that. He won 2 Silver Sluggers. He had one of the. He had 330.
That's right. He won 2.
He had 330 with 130 RBIs and 43 homers, and didn't finish in the top 3 in the AL MVP voting. So that's how rigged the voting system is. Because JD and Mookie could have won co-MVP, and JD didn't even finish in the top 3.
Well, to be fair, you still got a lot of voters on there who have the whole, DH mindset where, that's not a real position, and that's not... Because you know what? We saw the same thing. Didn't Ortiz come in, 5th in his final year? He should have been higher than that. I mean, I remember that year.
He came in 6th. He came in 6th, but he should have finished top 4.
No, he was fantastic that year. And this
was
coming from a guy...
in 05, he had a better year than Alex Rodriguez, but again, the DH stigma.
Yes.
Alex Rodriguez was very deserving that year, but I think Ortiz did have a better year, but it was the DH stigma. Who came in? Jose Ramirez finished ahead of JD Martinez last year, which is ridiculous.
That is right, yeah. Trout coming in second, then behind Mookie.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, going back to this year, Xander Bogaerts, DJ LeMahieu, or Rafael Devers probably all should have been higher vote getters than Marcus Semien. I would go my personal pick, and sure, you can call it bias if you want, but if you look at numbers, Xander Bogaerts. Xander Bogaerts had a phenomenal season. He is the best shortstop in baseball right now. He is the best shortstop in baseball. He had a phenomenal season. That contract is a bargain, and he was the 3rd best player in the American League this year.
Now, I know I just talked about this during the break.
I know, best valuable, yada, yada.
I feel like that is what's looked at, though, when it comes to these awards. And a lot of the times when you're thinking about these awards that are decided by the baseball writers, it's not really necessarily who should win it, but who the baseball writers think should win it. Because we've seen time after time awards like, and I'm going to give an example here, I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this one, but the 2017 Cy Young should not have gone to Rick Porcello. Would you agree with that?
16?
I'm sorry, 16.
That was a toss-up. With him and Verlander, that was a toss-up.
He was better in almost every stat besides wins.
No, but it was marginally better.
It was marginally, but it was still better. And at that point, you were just giving it to Rick Porcello because he won, 22 games or something like that. I mean,
I see what you're saying, but he was the ace for the Red Sox that year in a year that they won 93 games and made the playoffs. And Detroit missed by half a game. They missed by half a game.
At the same time, I mean, he had an ERA over 3 and won the Cy Young. I mean, that's...
No, he had a better ERA than Verlander.
Did he, though?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then what was it I'm thinking of? He definitely had less strikeouts, I know that.
He had less The strikeouts was the biggest thing, but he only pitched 4 less innings.
Right.
So, and the K per 9 was very close. So it wasn't a lot of the things were besides
and that was also
innings,
a weird year for pitching.
That was a weird year. Both of them deserved it, and I'm glad Porcello won. He deserved it, and he was great. 2016 Pretty Ricky was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Another former Tiger seeing glory on another team. Part of that rotation also including Verlander and Scherzer, who have also found greatness on other teams as well. Not to discount the greatness that they had while they were...
But Xander Bogaerts or Rafael Devers should have finished higher than Marcus Semien. This is wrong.
Devers. Wow. Okay, so are you putting both of them in front of the other person who people have been mentioning?
I also said LeMahieu. I also said LeMahieu.
No, I'm asking, would you put both of them in front of LeMahieu? I still think LeMahieu's 4.
I put Bogaerts in front of LeMahieu.
Okay, so LeMahieu 5?
I would put Bogaerts in front of LeMahieu.
So LeMahieu 5?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, we'll see how the voting plays out there, especially with the...
If Devers didn't fade in September, he would have been top 3.
Well, that's what I was going to say. In September, he pretty much just became a shell of himself.
But he was still phenomenal.
He was still phenomenal. Don't get me wrong.
Rafael Devers is going to finish top 3 in the MVP next year and win one by 2022.
Wow, very bold claim. Well, he'll still be on the Red Sox by then, right?
Yes, yeah. and he is the... He is the best under 22 or under player in baseball right now.
Is he?
Potentially.
How old is Alvarez? Isn't he 22?
Right now my top 3 would be Devers, Soto, Acuna.
Are they all under 20?
22 and under. And then Glaber would be fourth.
I know Soto was. I forgot. Acuna's also
Glaber,
in there.
Tatis, Jordan Alvarez. I mean, that's insane.
We have so many young talents.
The talent is insane.
The talent
Moving
level
on
is
to the National League.
Yes.
Christian Yelich, Anthony Rendon, and Cody Bellinger are your finalists. Andrew, who is your pick for MVP?
I've gone back and forth between the two. I think we know, Rendon had a great season, but he's finishing third place here. I have gone back and forth, and even with the injury, I'm giving it to Christian Yelich.
That's my pick too. My pick is Christian Yelich, despite the injury. He had the best numbers in the National League across the board. He was the most consistent player from day one to the end of the season.
Well, when he got hurt.
Yeah, right. Yeah. To the end of the season. I know that the injury is going to hurt him, and it's going to hurt him with the voters and games played and all that. But he across the board, he had the best numbers. And if it's not going to be Yelich, then it has to be Rendon, I think.
Over Bellinger.
Yes, I would give it to Rendon over Bellinger. Absolutely. I think it's very close between Yelich and Rendon. I mean, Rendon was a top 5 player in the game this year.
No, he was.
He was phenomenal, both offensively and defensively.
But think about this entire year, though. I mean, all we were talking about since day one of opening day was Yelich versus Bellinger.
And Bellinger faded in the second half. Right. If Yelich didn't get hurt, he would have won. So I think the injury really catapulted Rendon into the conversation. I think Rendon does have an outside shot at winning it. Because and if he wins, it's absolutely deserved. But I think it's going to come down to those two, and I think the voters will give it to Bellinger. I don't think that's right. Bellinger had a great season, yes, but he faded in the second half. He played phenomenal defense all season. He played phenomenal defense.
He's the most valuable defender in the outfield this year, I believe.
He should win Platinum Glove for the National League. I give it to him over Arenado this year. He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal defensively, both at first base for the first 2 months and then in right field for the rest of the year. But Bellinger faded in the second half, and then Yelich across the board had the best numbers until he got hurt, which catapulted Rendon into the conversation. So I think it should come down to Yelich and Rendon, but it's going to come down to Yelich and Bellinger. My pick would be Yelich or Yelich very, very slightly over Rendon, but I don't have a problem giving it to Rendon. I actually could see him winning it, and I think he's very deserving, but I think the voters will give it to Bellinger.
I would agree with that. Yelich is my number one choice, but realistically speaking, I think it goes to Cody Bellinger. AL Cy Young. You have Charlie Morton in third place, and then you have, I think that's pretty much guaranteed, Gerrit Cole, Justin Verlander. I don't know. I feel like this is the tightest of all the races.
Gerrit Cole for me.
Yeah.
But by a hair, Gerrit Cole.
Very, 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 very thin hair because they both had absolutely fantastic seasons. And, coming off of not only a Cy Young but entering free agency, Gerrit Cole has got to be pretty happy right now if he does end up winning that. Only going to get him even more money on the market. But you know what? I'd agree with that just for the sole fact of that ridiculous streak that he had going on since May where he never lost a game that lasted all the way until World Series Game 1. Just phenomenal dominance from Gerrit Cole. So, yeah, I'll agree with you. I'm going to say my pick would be Cole, and I believe they're giving it to Cole. Do you think they're giving it to Cole as well along with
I do.
Yeah, okay. I think it's unanimous for Cole right there. NL is an interesting one because you got Jacob deGrom, and you got Ryu, and you have Max Scherzer. I think it's also pretty fair to say that... Actually, I'm not sure if it's fair to say that Max Scherzer is the de facto third-place winner. I know him missing a lot of time is going to hurt.
I don't think he's not going to win.
No, he's not going to win. I'm just wondering if he's the de facto third-place finalist.
Jacob deGrom should win his second consecutive NL Cy Young Award. That I know. He had a phenomenal season. He had a rough first month, but after that he really settled in, and he was the same pitcher that he was in 2018 when he had one of the best seasons ever and won the Cy Young.
So you're picking him over Ryu without a doubt.
Yeah, Ryu had a phenomenal first half, and he faded in the second half. He still had a very, very good season overall, a great season actually. But I'd give it to deGrom. He turned in another phenomenal season, and I think by a very slim margin he had a better season than Hyun-Jin Ryu.
Talking about the perfect time to have a season like he did for Ryu. I mean, the man's entering free agency at the age of 34, I believe. And
yeah, he's going to get paid.
He's going to get paid, but I also got to say, whoever he does get paid from, I feel like is not going to be happy with the performance that they get. I don't see him ever having a season like this.
No, absolutely not.
No, I don't think so at all. Some team that needs pitching badly is going to be stuck with Ryu, which is why if him and his agent are smart, they're going to wait till the end of the season after the guys like Cole and Strasburg sign, and a team needs to desperately sign a pitcher like him, give him too much money, and then there you go, Ryu's set.
Right. Before the season, I did pick deGrom to win the Cy Young and go back-to-back, so
yeah,
hopefully he does. And I also picked, this can segue into our next segment, I picked Pete Alonso to win NL Rookie of the Year. And he
also did
unanimously win NL Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
I don't even know who the other two finalists are. Is it Tatis and
also Soroka?
Okay, Tatis will finish in third because he was shut down in the middle of August with a back injury. Mike Soroka, phenomenal Rookie Year, All-Star, had a great start in the division series against St. Louis Cardinals, something to build off for the Atlanta Braves in their future. He's going to be an ace for years to come, but this award is Pete Alonso's. 1,000%.
Pete Alonso, 100%. You want to go back and look at one of the very early March episodes of Nation's
I wasn't on there,
Pastime.
but I
Right,
put everything
James
on
is
my
not here
Twitter.
yet. I will.
We can timestamp that. I do. I put everything on my Twitter.
I will.
This is
vouch for that.
timestamped.
Have seen that Twitter there, but like I said, go back, check that out. I believe, I don't remember who Robbie said. I think he might have said Tatis or something, but once I heard that Pete Alonso was going to be on the opening day roster, I knew right away the man's going to be Rookie of the Year. He's an absolute beast. I don't think it's possible for me to hate him anymore as a Phillies fan, and him being a Mets player. I hate him. I despise the way he plays baseball. I don't think that he's a very good person, but he is a
he's a fine person.
You know what? That home run derby made me think otherwise, but you know what?
Come on. Did you see what he did with his money?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
because he really needed that money.
No, I'm saying, did you see who he donated it to?
That's what I'm saying. Like, he really needed it. The man's going to be making $30 million a year eventually.
He's a good
fine,
person.
He's a great person
because
he donated $1 million of the 300 plus million he's going to make in his career. Like, whatever. Okay, I think he's a little too. I think he needs to take a step down. Again, he's a kid, but whatever. Fantastic player, going to be a nuisance to face out of Citi Field and Flushing's for the foreseeable future for the NL East. So, congrats, Pete Alonso. I think they're giving it to him as well. I don't really think you can give it to Soroka, especially not Tatis.
No, it'll be Alonso.
It's going to be Pete Alonso. So both of us have Alonso, and both of us feel they will pick Alonso. AL, another one where I don't really think it's a conversation because Yordan Alvarez was called up in May and just absolutely tore up the pitching that he saw. So Yordan Alvarez is my pick there over Brandon Lowe.
Same here.
It's also Means would be the other one from
Baltimore.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's Yordan Alvarez. He had a phenomenal season. He's going to tear the league up for years to come.
Yes.
It's Yordan Alvarez.
Absolutely fantastic. Shout out, though, to Means and Lowe, though. Two very good rookie seasons.
Absolutely.
Reminds me a lot
both All-Stars.
Yes, both All-Stars as well. Reminds me a lot of a guy like Brian Anderson last year, who had a fantastic rookie season and obviously was not winning Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, for the Marlins.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very cool to see an Orioles player on the list here, giving some hope for that franchise there. Very nice to see for the fans. And yeah, Brandon Lowe, also a very talented second baseman. Hopefully we'll continue on that path. And then moving on to the final category, Manager of the Year. AL, I have a definitive pick. NL, I'm a little tossed up, but with the AL, I don't really see how you can give it to anyone other than Rocco Baldelli.
It has to be Rocco Baldelli.
It has to be.
Who are the other two? I mean, I guess if they gave it to Cash, I
The
wouldn't
other
have a
two
problem
is
giving it to
Cash
Kevin
and Aaron
Cash.
Boone.
No, like Kevin Cash is much more deserving than Aaron Boone.
Yes, of course. I don't even know why Aaron. Well, I know why Aaron Boone's on the list. It's because he played through the injuries and whatever.
Rocco Baldelli should be your AL Manager of the Year for
Baldelli.
2019.
Not only a first-year manager, but just bringing the Twins to not only make the playoffs but win the division. Putting aside the disappointing postseason they had because that's not counted. Just fantastic job by the first-year manager, Rocco Baldelli. And for a Twins team that I feel like is only continue to get better. I see a lot of predictions, especially on sites like MLB Trade Rumors, who just did release their top 50 free agent predictions. They have the Twins getting 3 or 4 solid pitchers from the free agent market, including guys like Will Smith and Madison Bumgarner. Not sure if that's going to happen, but I could definitely see the Twins being a little aggressive with pitching this offseason to try and shore up the division next year to once again win.
Yep.
So, fantastic job by Rocco Baldelli. I would agree that I think that he is your Manager of the Year. He's our choice and also who we think is going to be picked. And in the NL, you have Craig Counsell, Mike Schilt, and Brian Snitker.
Mike Schilt deserves it, but they
Yes.
missed the guy who really should have won. It should be Davey Martinez with what he did to turn that ship around for the Nationals, just getting them to the postseason.
Yeah.
But I said this going into the postseason that he deserved it. And then obviously what he did in the postseason was phenomenal. But to turn that ship around from 19 to 31, the way he turned around their season, the way he kept the faith in the guys, the way the guys kept the faith in him, the way Rizzo exuded the faith in him, and he was able to finally manage. He had such a bad bullpen, but he was able to navigate around that and get them to 93 wins in the playoffs in the NL wildcard game. He should be the NL Manager of the Year, but he is not even a finalist, and I think that's ridiculous. So I'm going to go with Mike Schilt here. Had a very good in his first full season with the Cardinals, won 91 games, won the division. They had a very good start to the season. In the summer months they slowed down, but they picked it up again in August, and they were able to finish strong and win the division and hold off the scorching hot Milwaukee Brewers down the stretch.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that this was a team that did not have a single deadline acquisition, just were able to power through with the guys that did it in the beginning of the year, and he really kept them together, and they were able to finish off, like you said, against the very scorching hot Milwaukee Brewers, who were starting to make them sweat there in the last couple weeks of the season. So I would agree with that. Mike Schiltz going to be my pick as well. Craig Counsell, another fantastic year. Brian Snicker, again, another fantastic year. Although I guess I understand why Snicker.
He won last year.
He did win last year, and I understand why he won last year. This year, I don't really think he should be top 3. Although, to be fair,
No, I'm fine.
well, no, I
yeah.
would say Martinez should be the third one there instead of
but
Snicker. Yeah, it's whatever. He's not going to win it anyway. I don't know. I feel like it could go to either Counselor or Schilt. I'm going to give it to Schilt, though. Just like you said, first full year, able to win 91 games, and had a very, very successful regular season as the St. Louis Cardinals manager. So with that said, that pretty much wraps up the discussion we had there about the reward picks. Do you want to give your picks for Platinum Glove real quick? Because I know that's also going to be announced in the next couple of days.
Yeah, we got one for each league, right?
I believe it is one for each league, yes.
Cody Bellinger for the National League, Matt Chapman for the American League, and if I'll give a backup pick for each league, just if one of those guys doesn't win it. If it's not Bellinger in the National League, Nolan Arenado, and if it's not Matt Chapman in the American League, Mookie Betts.
I believe Arenado would be winning his second or third straight too as well, I believe, which is phenomenal. I know also Nolan Arenado, I'm pretty sure, has won the Gold Glove every year he's been in the league. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's won every year since 2013, which is his first full year.
Yes. So nothing but...
Yeah, just won a 7th straight Gold Glove, which is the 4th most all-time for a third baseman.
Starting to approach on Mike Schmidt there eventually. I know from listening to a lot of broadcasts where Schmidt's on there, Mike Schmidt, a very big fan of Nolan Arenado, and has told him that
Arenado
won.
Arenado won in 17 and 18.
That's what it was. Yes. So he has won 2 in a row. This would be his 3rd Platinum Glove in a row. Was it Matt Chapman last year as well?
Yes.
Wow. So honestly, I could see it being both of them again.
I could also see Matt Olson taking it in the AL.
Matt Olson. A lot of people don't realize what a good defender
he is.
Very
underrated player overall.
Fantastic player. I'm sure you remember when he was first called up when it was right in the middle of the Hoskins home run race and also right after the Gary Sanchez one, and there was an outrage on social media with the whole hashtag Post Olson. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
That was hilarious. I remember all the fans were all up in arms that the official MLB Instagram account would not post videos of Matt Olson breaking rookie home run records. Absolutely fantastic player. Very underrated as well, not only with the bat, but with the glove. Gold Glove this year, I believe he won, and serious contender for the Platinum Glove. Yeah, second contender. And did he win last year as a first as well? I don't think he won in the outfield, right? Yeah, he won it at first base. He won it at first, yeah. I know he played the outfield for a little bit when he was caught up in 17, but yeah, definitely won it at first base last year. So, I don't know. We will see. I think it's pretty safe to bet on Nolan Arenado and Matt Chapman, though. Bellinger I could see taking just because he was, statistically speaking, the most valuable outfielder defensively this year. But, we'll see. We'll see if anything shakes up there. But, yeah, with that said, you know what? Any couple minutes here coming up on closing. Any final thoughts on free agents, anything like that? I mean, we probably won't be seeing a whole lot of action within the next week here before our next show. We probably won't be seeing a lot of action until the winter meetings or Christmas as it is. But you know what? Let's close it out with this. One blockbuster trade that you think has a possibility of happening this offseason. There's a lot of talk about free agents, but there's always seems to be one trade that no one expects.
Oh, so I can't say Mookie Betts, the Atlanta Braves.
Well, no, that'd be considered blockbuster.
Mookie Betts, the Atlanta Braves.
That's fair. And
not that I want that to happen, but
I equally do not want that to happen. I don't want to be facing Mookie Betts next year when I'm competing for the National League East. So let's hope that doesn't happen. I'm gonna say blockbuster that I think has a very significant chance of happening is Corey Kluber moving. I know he's coming off of an injury.
Oh, Lindor. Lindor is getting traded, and I think that he's going to go to the Dodgers.
Oh, man. You know what? You want to talk about a player who doesn't belong in another uniform, especially a Dodger uniform? I would cry if I saw Francisco Lindor smile in a Dodger uniform. That would be sad. But very significant chance that does happen. Dodgers already engaging in talks with them. And let's not forget the wonderful quote from the owner of the Cleveland Indians last year when asked about Francisco Lindor. Enjoy him while you have him. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe that an owner would even say that, but even if that is your mindset. But he said it. So pretty safe to assume that they're going to be, if not this year, shipping him out before he becomes a free agent because they have absolutely no intention of paying him money. I still believe that the biggest free agent signing in that history, is it Nick Swisher or someone above him?
I have no clue.
Nick Swisher was only 4 years, $60 million, but this is a franchise.
Wasn't it Albert Bell?
Oh, you know what? It was Albert Bell back in the 90s. Yep. Albert Bell did edge out Nick Swisher for that. But, yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Lindor going away. I just think all of the Indians in general are just going to be – there's going to be a lot of trades going on there. Try and restock that farm system. Yeah. Especially because they're just kind of conceding the division at this point, realizing that the Twins are – they're back, and they're poised to make another good run next year. And especially the White Sox, who are also building up, have a lot of good power bats, need some pitching as well, but a lot of talent there in Chicago, especially with, not to mention, the batting champion of this year, Tim Anderson, also from out of there. So we'll see. NL Central or AL Central.
That's an interesting team to keep an eye on. I could also see
Yeah.
JD Martinez going to the White Sox potentially.
For a trade, yeah. Well, the problem would be then, do they have enough pieces to get a trade done that the Red Sox consider valuable? Because I know a lot of their guys are called up now.
I think they do.
Would they trade a guy who's already called up in an established major league? Because a lot of their guys who were prospects that they acquired,
They'd have to.
Yeah, they should trade Moncada and Kopech, right?
Yeah, give him back. No. Give me Kopech back.
Yeah,
give me
seriously.
Kopech
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
Devers. I'm fine, but give me Kopech back.
That would be pretty funny, yeah. So, you know what? I think that's fair to say. I'm going to say Kluber goes to a team I'm going to say Kluber goes to whatever team bids on Strasburg and Cole doesn't get them, whether it be
How about the Padres?
Whether it be, they've already talked to Kluber. They've talked to Indians about Kluber. They did it all throughout last season, all throughout spring training. They were talking with him for Bauer. You still have the Angels, who we keep mentioning need pitching, and they have their new manager in Joe Madden. They announced their staff today, which, by the way, completely off topic. But did you see who the bullpen coach is for the Los Angeles Angels this year? Andrew Bailey, former Rookie of the Year.
I remember him.
Absolutely
yeah,
a blast from a past. Won Rookie of the Year.
He was 2013 Red
with
Sox.
the A's, went on the Red Sox in 2013, and finished off his career as de facto
Yankee,
closer.
right?
No, actually, Phillies. He finished with the Phillies for a
okay.
little bit. Yeah, he was all over the place. Kind of feel like a guy who I thought was going to be a fantastic reliever for years to come and just died off.
Yeah, he had elbow issues.
He did. He really did. So, yeah, a little interesting tidbit there.
Was he really the Rookie of the Year?
He was the Rookie of the Year. Yes, he was.
What year
as a
was
closer.
that?
I believe it was 2011,
10
or 11.
We're looking that up.
Yeah, we're
right
gonna
now.
fact check that real quick. I definitely know he was Rookie of the Year because I had a when I actually met him, he signed a Rookie of the Year card I had of him because that's pretty much the only noteworthy thing I can remember from that career. But no, he was cool. He was a good pitcher. I had no problem with Andrew Bailey, aside from the fact that he had like a 6 ERA when he was a member of the Phillies. But you know what? He seemed like a nice guy. Was it 2000?
2009.
2009. Wow. Okay, so even earlier than we thought. But yeah, Rookie of the Year with the Oakland Athletics. Oh, I'm sorry. He actually finished his career with the Angels. I forgot about that. He did have 2 years with the Angels after the Phillies. So how about that? He going back to where he finished his career to be a bullpen coach. Very interesting to see there. So with that said, I think that's going to wrap up tonight's edition of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and listening tonight. We will be live again next week. Like I said, around 8:10 to around 9:10. Starting to get a little bit of later starts here due to some technical difficulties, but no problem at all. Just tune in a little bit later. And if you can't tune in live, once again, remember, go ahead and follow our Twitter. That is at NatPastimeCap. All of our shows are posted on there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is the same exact name as our show name, Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. You'll find all the shows in podcast form there. And also, not sure how far in development we are on this, but do want to make the announcement that our shows in podcast form will be coming to Spotify and most likely iTunes soon enough, which will be very cool. You guys will have the chance to be able to listen to that in a more podcast-friendly kind of thing than having a YouTube video up. So look forward to that. We will keep you updated with that with announcements on our Twitter. So once again, make sure you follow that at NatPastimeCap. And with that said, that's going to wrap up the show for good. I've been your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, James Higgins, and have a fantastic rest of the evening.
Let's go. Off season's here. Hot stove.